Hi mushers and mushers in the making. The next few videos are going to focus specifically on using a bike for dryland mushing. If you've ever felt like your dog could do more, if you could handle more, then I think we've got some information for you. Let's jump in. First up, we're not talking side attachments for bikes today. I'm focusing specifically on the perspective of a medium or larger sized dog out in front of your bike at the end of the line pulling. So the safety of your dog, yourself, other trail users, and courtesy is really important. We're not talking safe as a synonym for boring though. We're talking about you being calm and in control so that you can learn and progress faster to the fun stuff that Barky over there is talking about. So letting your dog stretch out and run at full speed for fun or for races, or adding a second dog, or harder trails and longer distances. All the fun and hopefully less of the injuries and repair costs. Second, we're talking about runs off pavement. Not that you can never have a patch of pavement here or there, but that you're trying not to give in to the convenience of saying, well, it would be easier to use a pavement style bike, or I already have one of those, or the closer trails are paved. Because what I've come to really understand about the debate about whether or not it's bad to run dogs on pavement is that that's the wrong question. We should be asking, why is it good for dogs? And the reasons it's good all circle right back around to human convenience. So as the humans in charge, I feel like it's our job to try hard to find the time and the dirt or not so coarse gravel or grass areas to run on, and to also be patient. If our dogs need time to build up to be able to run and pull fast on those draggier surfaces or to go further, we need to give them that time. That brings us to our third point, that you need a bike that is capable of being safely controlled off-road. So for the average, not a mountain biker beginner looking to start bike touring with a two-wheeled bike, your ideal bike is going to be an aluminum hardtail mountain bike. They'll have a frame with a top tube that slopes down towards the back to be easier to stand over while stopped, as well as wider, knobbier tires. The standard width is probably between 2.25 and 2.4 inches, with wider being better for certain applications. And they'll have suspension on the front wheel and disc brakes unless the bike is quite old. But entry level should be good to go. Used is good if it's had a safety tune-up, but something designed from the start for mountain biking is your best bet that you're going to have something that you can learn to not only control the bike off-road in those conditions on relatively tame trails, but a dog attached and pulling you on those same trails too. An aluminum hardtail mountain bike is also much more likely to hold up to the wear and tear of you learning and getting to be a well-oiled team, and then maybe wanting to upgrade your bike or maybe sell it because bikejor's just not your thing. It's going to have a lot more resale value than other types of bikes that aren't meant to take that abuse. A bit lower performance option, but also lower cost option that can be a great starter bike is something like a hybrid bike, also called a dual sport bike. But buyer beware if you've got a dog with any kind of need for speed and you would be buying one new. You may have some buyer's remorse because you're quickly going to outpace that bike and really need more control. But there are some equipment swaps you can do that can get you a little bit more traction that we'll talk about in the next video. So if you already have the bike, check that out first. Good bikes are expensive though. There's no sugarcoating that. And the pandemic has led to supply issues of parts and new bikes and raised the price of used bikes. So as your budget gets tighter, you need to be more and more careful that you're still ending up with something that is safe for you. Yes, even just to try the sport. So Your red flags that you want to watch out for if your budget really can't budge are, first off, overly cheap, overly flexible steel, such as high tensile, sometimes called high ten, as the materials for any part of the bike, and underpowered brakes. The good news, though, is that it is not disc brakes or bust, so you don't have to go that far, but you want to avoid coaster brakes, hand brakes that are rim brakes and are not at least linear pull V brakes, and only having a handbrake for the rear wheel. Those all don't have the power and the modulation to help you stay controlled off-road. Those bikes with those kinds of brakes will also probably not have frames, handlebars, wheel rims, headsets, any number of parts that are meant to hold up to the rugged riding that we're going to be doing for mushing too. Because really, you can mush with them, but at some point, probably sooner than later, they are going to end up as food. Yeah, what I mean by that is that they're going to end up a high tensile pretzel handlebar or a tacoed wheel, and wheel rims should just not look like hard shell tacos or Pringles chips. It really only takes a few seconds of extra motivating critter or maybe even a scary noise, and then you're suddenly going faster and or in a completely different direction than you expected to be, even if you had said to yourself at the beginning of the ride, well, I know my bike isn't that great, so I'm gonna ride conservatively. Well, a squirrel just ruined that plan. On the budget topic, we at least need to mention the difference between department store bikes compared to bike shop brand bikes or direct to consumer brand bikes. So what I want everyone to know is that if you have a department store hybrid bike or mountain bike already, there is no shame in that. If you keep it in safe, usable condition, you should use it. That being said, if you haven't bought one yet, look everywhere else that you can before going to a big box store. What happens is that they are cheap bikes to buy, but they are not cheap bikes to maintain so that you can actually ride them at that same budget level. So when it comes to shopping for bikes, patience can really pay off in how long you get to ride before you have another large or other recurring expenses for that bike. If that's made you realize that finding a safe bike to even just try out Bikejor is probably going to be a lot harder than you anticipated, don't scrap the idea of trying Bikejor completely. But do take your time to focus on things like teaching your dog the cues before you get started, as everyone should. And check out some of the other videos that I have as well, and get a really good understanding of where that traction is coming from that you need for control within the equipment, the skills, and the setup, so that you can shore up any weaknesses that you might have that rely more on time than money. I'm happy to chat down in the comments as time allows. If you've got questions about, what to prioritize if your budget is tight, or maybe you already do canicross, so you're kind of really excited to invest in a bike, and you're like, hey, where's the other end of the spectrum? I don't want to overbike myself and overspend before I really know exactly what I'm wanting long term. What are some features that I might want to look for in a bike? The next video in this lineup is going to be about optimizing the bike that you already have. So subscribe and ride along.